Kind of goes to the question that I think every brand needs to ask themselves is, if I got banned from Facebook and Google tomorrow.
No problem.
No problem. You better have a playbook for it though, right? So there's a company there called Brumate. They're a less than lethal option for people to protect themselves. They got banned from Facebook and Google. Not here to start a political discussion, but they went hard on
truth.
Yeah, they started advertising on all these podcasts, and they're up over 100% year over year, and they can't even advertise on Facebook and Google. So I think you have to ask yourself that question and build a playbook around that, because you'll have days where you wake up and be like, wow, we're off target by 20%. What are we gonna do now? I would recommend planting the seeds of how to execute on that quickly if you need to. And at minimum, at the start of 2025, start building those opportunities, because it's not gonna get better on Facebook and Google. It's only gonna get more expensive. It's only gonna get harder.
We are cruising, and we are going to keep it on going. The next group is my group already ready. 1, 2, 3, 4. You four, make your way on up so we can get some introductions in, and we'll make sure tech. All the way on down. Make sure you pull the mic up and speak into it a couple times. Just 5 white guys on a stage.
Nothing to see here, nothing to see.
Nothing different. Same, except me, I don't look that white. Who am I speaking to? Let's start all the way over this side.
Hans Harris, Director of Growth at drinkware and coolers brand Brumate. Oversee all of our new customer acquisition, paid channels, earned channels, basically growth by any means necessary.
I am MacCoy Merkley. I'm the CMO of Portland Leather Goods. I've been with Portland Leather Goods for 6 years, so my roles changed from time to time. Started when we were just at 1 million. We're over 100 million now. So things have grown, have changed. I'm mostly focused now on marketing leadership and alignment on the executive level, and working with all the internal teams to make sure they're shooting at the same target.
Oh. So you got some fans.
No,
okay,
Appreciate
Dad.
it.
The Portland Leather Goods team travels well.
Yeah,
What an act
mob
to
deep
follow.
for sure.
Jeez, put me against that.
Yeah, hi, I sell cookies.
I do, yeah. Formally, so my name is Greg Dalby, formerly the SVP of Omnichannel at Milk Bar. So about 4 weeks ago, I made a transition. I'm doing some fractional CMO and head of e-commerce work right now. Thank you.
This is wild.
I'm Chris Lang. I'm one of the owners of Fresh Chili Company, #1 hatch green chili store in America.
God bless. Quite a variety of individuals up here, and I'm going to ask this. This is the theme. Is 2024 has been interesting. Personally, it's been interesting. I've been watching this grow, and I've watched all you guys kind of grow your own businesses, and I know way too much about cups, leather, cookies, and chili, spicy or non. And I wanted to just get a tone, because you guys I know intimately all your revenues varying on different scales, which means we've all been affected positively and negatively across the board, from product development, from product scaling, and from operations. So in one sentence, I'm gonna go down the line, starting here with Chris all the way down back there. What was 2024 like for you and your team?
Telling our story. It's about telling our story.
Why? Why does that matter now more than ever?
So we were up, quite a bit over, our last fourth quarter, and we were rolling that into January and February, and then Meta all of a sudden in February didn't want to work anymore, and we just had to really find creative that worked, and that was really kind of going through and making sure that the storytelling was at the heart of our messaging, and not just branded messaging, but that me and my partner were really talking to our audience directly.
For me, 2024 is the year of financial literacy. And for those of you that were here last year, you might have seen Taylor Holiday was on stage, and he talked about margin expansion. And I think he was one of the few people who talked about margin last year in most of the talks. And as I watched the talks unfold this year, I don't think I've watched any panel where someone wasn't talking about contribution margin and margin expansion and understanding your OpEx. So for me, it's been really interesting to watch the industry change in, I think, a pretty fundamental way from the 2021, 2022 game. of building a rapidly scaling business with very little discussion about margin and operational efficiency and fulfillment costs. And I think it's a great thing. I'm here for it. I believe it's needed in our industry, but it's heartening to see how many people are just upping their game and building stronger, sustainable businesses in the D2C space. And there's been a lot of companies that aren't here anymore through 2024, but the ones that are figuring out how to really understand their margin profile, understand the true cost of their business, and build a sustainable, profitable one, it's what our industry needs, and I'm heartened to see it.
Where do you think people start to get that information? Like Taylor's one of the few guys I think that's really yelling about it.
Yeah.
Like, how are you starting this by yourself, or where are you going to like learn more?
Yeah, I mean, we went through this at Milk Bar when I came in late 2022. This was what we had to do. We were saying, like, this business is not making money. We have to figure out how to pivot, and it's not easy. And I think at the time, not a lot of people were talking about it. Certainly, I don't think there's still enough people that are disseminating the information on how do you build a strong, durable D2C business in 2024. And it starts with understanding your people. It starts with understanding your platforms and your processes. That's how I always group these things together. And I think I'll go back to what Taylor said earlier today, the business that you built. If you built your business 2021, 2022, and you're using the same kind of processes to try and deliver growth and deliver scale, you've built the wrong kind of business. You have to look at it from a completely different angle, and you really have to rebuild the business from zero up and say, what kind of roles do we need? Are they the right people in the right kind of roles? Do we have the right systems that are delivering growth for us? I mean, personally, anecdotally, when I got to Milk Bar, we were paying more for our Klaviyo bill than we were for Shopify, right? Massively overpaying on that. And so looking at those platforms and saying, yeah, it may be a great platform, but are we overpaying to a significant degree, and are we getting the value out of it? Sure. It is a painful exercise. It takes a lot of time. And I don't think there's any replacement for just getting into the weeds of how your business works, what everyone on your team is doing, and is that delivering the right ROI to deliver a sustainable, durable business.
MacCoy, before you get into like what your sentence was, you had some thoughts on this you shared on the background of like operational efficiency and then the team build. To build the machine that you want to listen to this individual make things, how has that been different for that growth?
You say, has it been different from traditional growth?
Correct, absolutely.
Yeah, you took a lot of the words right out of my mouth, which is like when things are, in a sentence, maybe I'll just start there, was like external instability and internal stability, right? So that was the focus for this year, is like when some of this opportunity dries up for whatever reason, it's a really good time to focus internally on making sure that like your systems are healthy, and it's a big gut check. Growth covers a multitude of sins, at least for the short term, because you can sort of excuse away some of the stuff you're really bad at with just the excuse that like we're growing and that's good enough. And then when some of the systems become less stable and you really have to look inside, and I called it inflation earlier, and it's not inflation because we're in a deflationary business, but the inflation is in the compensated demand it takes as a baseline just to run a profitable business. All the things that you're no longer, all the slack has been pulled in on the margin of error. And so the ship has to be squeaky clean, and everyone needs to be aligned and making sure that they're aiming at the same target. And so that's where I spend a lot of my time, and where I've invested the majority of this year is going from department to department, especially the ones under my control, but across the entire business. And like Amir, making sure that we're aiming all of our efforts at the actual goal. And even internally, we're mostly an internal team. We don't use a lot of agencies. We have a few, but we're mostly internal. When you really start to dig in with a critical eye, you'd be shocked at how much misalignment exists in your own business.
For example,
you can have, I won't get into too specifics, but I recently was working on a problem where 4 different departments had essentially, they had unique problems, but were all caused by the same root thing. And the solution was basically that like no one had talked to each other. Yes, so like we had an overstock in a material, and when we look back, we were missing that core variant in 8 of our last new bags. And so we were finding overstocks on materials and underproduction in POs, and we were also missing out on the opportunity to selling those number 1 selling variant. And the cure was literally just somebody walking around going, what the hell's going on here? Like, you talk to him, you talk to him, you talk to him. And that happens constantly, and it's not a condemnation of anyone or anyone in those departments, but precision minimizes effort. And so if you can get your whole team like really laser focused on exactly what they need to be aiming at, which for the marketing team, which is the team I run, is the generation of revenue and or the efficiency while we generate that revenue. And that means talking to the graphic designers about that, talking to your e-com merchandisers, talking to everyone top to bottom, and making sure like they understand why they are sitting in a chair and what they're here to do for the business, and getting them on the same track.
What does like a brief org structure looks like that you oversee?
We have 3 like main compartments. I think like most, we have an operations side, we have a finance, and we have a marketing side. The operations side, because we own the manufacturer, it's one of our greatest benefits, but it does tend to bend what people might think of as a traditional like organizational structure for operations. So operations by far is the largest. Curtis mentioned we have a 240,000 square foot factory in Mexico, but there's 700 people in there. So there's a lot more that gets under the umbrella of operations, and maybe traditionally D2C companies might be familiar with, talking about purchasing and the logistics of those products.
What's your sentence, sir?
It's been a year of solid, significant, but profitable growth, and I'm happy to report that Brumate has been first purchase profitable for the last like 18 months. And so like profitability matters, right? And so, but to everyone's point, it's like it does take alignment, it takes hard work, it takes looking at yourself in the mirror and saying like we have to do hard shit to make this happen. But
how did you get there? We had a conversation at Grow, and you're like, I'm about to go into some shit. Like you had to deal with some stuff. How did you get there?
I mean, before I joined Brumate, I'd been there like 2 years. I started in a D2C startup that was first purchase profitable from day one, from like, literally the first paying order. And I think if you come from that environment, it becomes second nature that like, why are we spending money if we're not like earning a profit? And you don't grow up in that space, so it's not natural to you. So I think I have a slightly different just perspective, having been having that experience, but it's hard. We got to, Brumate had a huge year, like COVID 2020, massively popular, and was turning around and reinvesting that revenue in inefficient marketing and just kind of throwing shit at the wall, not really knowing what was going on. So rigorous measurement and actually like aligning teams on what is our, I don't like to say source of truth because I don't think there is like a source of truth, but making sure that we're marching in the same line, but cutting inefficient marketing spend and getting down to what was actually driving incremental results. Like post-purchase survey is the easiest, most low-lift tool. Ask your customers how did they hear about us. That is probably that's probably like the thing that is going to get you to the point of like what's driving profitable growth fastest without any unnecessary expensive MTA, MMM, whatever it might be. So getting the team aligned to that and then making those decisions of like, sorry if this was, your baby, but I don't have a problem with you as a person, but like this is not making sense for the business and we've just got to like head in this new direction if you or I want a job or if we want to be a brand that can become a household name in the next 3, 5, 7 years, and that's where we're headed.
This is something I love to ask founders. It's usually not on stage with microphones in your face, so we'll see how this goes. What's your actual tech stack that you use daily?
Daily?
We'll go daily and then weekly.
I need, as a chiefly performance marketer, I need like hourly data. I need fresh data all the time. I'm a big Supermetrics user. Supermetrics for Google Sheets. Again, don't overcomplicate it. I think oftentimes BA tools are just way too slow to actually allow you to make quick decisions or get really familiar with your data. So Supermetrics, no commerce for the post-purchase survey. Again, that's a really, really valuable tool for us. What am I missing?
It's more than those two, that's for fucking sure.
Yeah, there's a bunch, right? And I'll probably, think of some more as this conversation goes on. But as far as like making business decisions and knowing where our profitable business lines are, our profitable channels are, it's getting good, clean data into a place where you are comfortable manipulating it and like doing ad hoc analyses, and then something that you trust as far as like what are actually driving the attention impressions that customers can remember where they then eventually converted.
This is going to go down to the rest of us. I'm going to go to Greg on this one. A lot of customer feedback went into like the flavors and the things that you guys were creating. What pipeline did you create, or what learning mechanism or listening mechanism did you have, and anybody else in this panel, of I am about to go this product, I'm about to launch this flavor, how do I know it with some certainty it's going to do well? Because that's CX, that leads into paid media, and then leads into like, I need product made.
Yep. Yeah, I mean,
Hold on, I actually think a lot of you guys can actually talk about that too, so we'll go down the line. Thank you.
Sure. Flavor is it can be a choice that, depending on how you talk about flavor in food, can drastically impact people's perception of it, right? If you say something is a blueberry lemon muffin flavor, how much is blueberry? How much is lemon? How much does the muffin shine through? So flavor in a food company is very complex. And I will say, we didn't always get it right. And there were definitely times where we thought a flavor maybe tasted great, but also maybe someone wasn't willing to take a risk on a flavor for Mother's Day. They want the home run product. So,
for instance, what didn't go well?
I'll use blueberry muffin cake as an example. Mother's Day 2023 did not do as well as we expected it to. We realized that we found we were being a little too cute with innovation. Everyone's okay with buying the strawberry shortcake every year for Mother's Day. There's nothing wrong. So we moved to an icon menu where we bring back the same flavors for Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas every year. And the times in between are the opportunity for us to really innovate and create incrementality through interesting flavors at a time when people are maybe willing to take a bit more of a risk on something. But those giftable moments, you had to have a home run that everyone's gonna love. And pumpkin milk bar pie sells out every single year. We should never not have that on the menu, and it's okay to do it every single year.
So what's like the actual technical implementation of, I need to get this feedback, and I talked about it earlier on one of the panels I was on, is like, I launch a product, I send it to my VIPs give me feedback, they give me a video testimonial, they fill out a Google sheet that goes into an info, and then now I send them more messages. Like, did you have a workflow similar?
Yeah, so we use 3 primary data sources that I think anyone here could use, and then one that was a bit unique to us, but obviously review feedback, always be looking at your reviews. I think particularly with AI tools today, you should be weekly dumping all of your customer reviews at the product level, load them up and get the sentiment feedback out of ChatGPT. Super easy to do. Obviously, I think you can do the same thing with your ads. Look at your ad comments, see what people are talking about and responding to. Our customers have no problem asking, when's this flavor coming back? And if we see that sentiment being shared at ad comments, we would action on that. And then lastly is just looking at our CX team. What kind of feedback were they getting? Were people generally happy with the flavors? Were people asking for flavors to come back on the menu, or asking if let's use matcha as an interesting flavor that's kind of hot right now. Should we do anything with matcha? Our customers asking about that. Those are all 3 areas that I think anyone could use to find out what the next level of product is that you should be bringing out. We also had our subscription program that I talked about last year, and that was very much a test bed for the next level of product. So customers could subscribe to essentially a dessert of the month club from us. We used that club as a way to test out new flavor offerings, get direct feedback from our best customers who were happy to pay to be part of that program, and that could help us validate what products we should commercialize and bring to market for either an evergreen or LTO option on the menu.
Anybody else have any interesting customer listening to product development workflows?
I mean, you got it.
Well, I mean, so we mentioned it before, but we have a ridiculous Facebook group. It's wildly
I was going to
impractical.
say the same thing.
Yeah, so word, right? We have 130,000 people in there, and so we've got to be careful when we take too much direction from that, and we really need to be clear about the product we're trying to create. Is this a hero product that we plan to advertise aggressively for new customer acquisition, or is this a retention play? We know new customers come in and they scoop up that, but we have this captive audience of 130,000 people. Now, it's a little like getting your fashion report from a football stadium, where you go and you're like, man, people love red and purple, and that's just the home team colors. So you have to be careful and be really intentional about what you're doing here, but for all intents and purposes, you can de-risk a lot of the launch. So God forbid there's a rake, waiting at the end of that product launch. You can at least de-risk it to some substantial degree where you can move on and you live another day if in fact you happen to release a dud. And then we also, through that same group, we're pipelining products. We're slowly teasing for months and months and months those products and building anticipation. Again, because we own the manufacturers, we're typically hands-on prototypes for months and months beforehand, so we can drop little sneak peeks and little teasers, and they eat that up. So we're reasonably certain by the time it comes out.
How do they get into the Facebook group?
The story that's the shortest possible was basically we ran one ad exclusively, just all budget, one big ad, and what we started to notice was people with no exclusions, mind you, right? So returning customers and new customers are seeing the same ad. And we started to see a lot of social engagement on that post. And it sort of slowly turned into a forum board on an ad. And so the direction to our social media team was, watch the comments on this ads. If they can answer a question for themselves, so you have customers asking questions and customers answering, that's the best. But if not, provide a customer service level experience on an ad. So that grew and grew, and eventually that migrated to its own individual Facebook group. We hijacked another brand. It wasn't run by us, but it was brand A and Portland Leather Goods, and they eventually went, see you later, brand A, and it just became the dedicated group for Portland Leather Goods. So we inherited a large list, and then eventually that turned into a strategy of launching our own Facebook group. We have 6 people moderating that 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so it's our creative space to talk to them. And there's just, the goal for us is just that the conversation is happening inside of our domain. Yeah. And we can control, every so often we put something in there, but I just checked the stats for last month. We had 650,000 likes on posts. We had 157,000 comments in that group, and we had 10,000 individual unique posts in that group. So just the massive conversation that's happening in that gives us a lot of leverage to help product iteration and new designs.
Are your moderators employees, or are they customers that you've deployed?
If you boil it down, I think they're psychopaths. I don't know. I couldn't do it. I tell you what. But no, they're fantastic. I say that with all love in my heart. They're an amazing group of people who genuinely really care for the brand. We actually...
Wait, are they employees or are they...
They're employees, sorry. Yeah, I don't know if I missed that edge of the question. If you are in our groups, what you'll notice is the moderators or the people, our team who's posting, have essentially, we thought was just burner profiles, but they almost became these characters. They were a mashup of a lot of the dogs that used to come to our office, and in a way of like anonymizing them, and we did not plan this, so I'll give you mine. It was like one dog's name, another dog's name, and then a dog profile. We like dogs, I don't know, don't copy the strategy, it's just what happened to come about. But when we anonymize like the actual like moderator profiles, it let them be like larger than life and set that bar for the enthusiasm of the brand as sky high as possible without a certain person assigning their name to a post where they may take the edge off the enthusiasm to preserve like ego or whatever the word would be. I don't think that's the correct word, but you get the idea.
I think the only new thing I'll add to that, because we have a very, very, very similar strategy. In-house employees manage a Facebook VIP group that I think last time I checked was like 65,000. But the difference is our founder is very involved in that group. Our founder is also the head of product. So when it comes to product pipeline, it's like, hey guys, here's 10 Pantone swatches. And like in drinkware, other than introducing new product lines, it's a lot of seasonal color refreshes and drop model like collections, prints, colors. And so he'll bring them along in the process of like, I'm considering, here's 10 color swatches. What do you guys like? We're thinking about a fall line, or we're considering this print. Builds an incredible community, fanatical repeat purchase behavior because those people feel like they have some ownership in it. But it also seems like we cannot miss on these drops in the color collections we do, because our customers, like an average drop, we'd probably do a couple $1 million in merchandise in an hour and sell out and on to the next one, and we will just max that and do 24 of those a year, and it's a huge source of revenue. And Brian, earlier on the panel, Nude was talking about confirmation bias. It's like we also don't want to just go all in on that being the source of our information, because then it's this maybe negative feedback loop when it comes to acquisition of, okay, you're just going to get more of what's already there in the group. So we also make sure to go out and survey folks that aren't really in that group, aren't our customer, that are new demos that we want to go after and say, what is it you would be looking for? Why haven't you purchased? Is it different features, functionality, designs? Like, what is it going to take to make you a customer? And so when you put those things together, then you balance a like product roadmap that can kind of cater to driving insane LTV and repeat business, doing more of what's really worked, but then also making sure you've got a healthy mix of trying new concepts.
Okay, role play with me. So I'm not done. So I have orange glasses, okay? Sometimes I live in Mexico, sometimes I don't. We're off target for Q4, boys. All 4 of you run my division. Unlimited budget, unlimited creative, unlimited influencers, unlimited anything you want, unlimited product. But we're losing. How do we win? How am I gonna win Q4? How am I gonna hit my targets? I would like to go down the line and see your ideas. Nothing's off the table. What do we do?
I mean, you tell your story first and foremost. The story is the heartbeat of everything we do. So from the type of emails that we send are from the founder, text-based emails, the messaging is live videos from the farm, live videos from the kitchen, live videos from the shipping department. We are constantly talking to our customers multiple times a day, through automations, and I really believe that's what people want to buy. They want to buy from people more than ever. Trust is the new currency. Personal brands are the new currency. So founders, get out there and let people invest in you and your community, because that's what they want to invest in. They don't want to necessarily invest in some of these bigger brands. They want to invest in a mission and a cause.
I think that's true. I think a lot of I think why people love celebrity brands so much, why the Yeezy drop did so well, is they are just so fanatical about who this person is and what they kind of live about. I think Milk Bar had a little bit of that story. Their creator, she was very involved, and their community was extremely loyal. Do you think that plays a big role, especially if you don't hit targets? Are you going to drive deeper into a message around why this product is incredible, ingredient-wise, or are you going I'm gonna actually pull a playbook and go discount or go kind of offers? Because I'm in this situation potentially right now, is what levers do I have to pull? Is it the emails that I have to smash? Is it new product? Is it actually discounting? What is that play that you're thinking through?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. For us at Milk Bar, having a great founder story was a massive acquisition leverage point for us. Gave us huge opportunity through her appearances on Netflix or Amazon or Good Morning America. There were always great moments for us to create real moments of excitement about the brand. And we saw it in the results for sales. We would see the bump when it happened. She goes on Kelly Clarkson, Taylor Swift posts her birthday cake. It absolutely creates massive acquisition leverage for us. And I think kind of goes to the question that I think every brand needs to ask themselves, is if I got banned from Facebook and Google tomorrow.
No problem.
Huh?
No problem.
No problem. You better have a playbook for it though, right? There's a company, I'm based in Las Vegas, there's a company there called Brumate. They're a less than lethal option for people to protect themselves. They got banned from Facebook and Google. And not here to start a political discussion, but they went hard on
Truth?
They started advertising on all these podcasts, and they're up over 100% year over year, and they can't even advertise on Facebook and Google. Yeah. So I think you have to ask yourself those questions. If I got banned tomorrow from this, we keep talking about these channels, they're getting less efficient, they're getting less powerful. The rest of the year is gonna be tough for all of us. Ask yourself that question and build a playbook around that, because you'll have days where you wake up and be like, wow, we're off target by 20%. What are we gonna do now? If you haven't already built the playbook at minimum, if not started to seed that strategy, you may wake up one day to a very tough reality in a more, everyone's kind of forgetting, we have a more narrow window this year than last year to sell between Thanksgiving and Christmas. You could be in a very painful spot. So at least build the playbook of what do we do outside of those two channels. And I would recommend start planting the seeds of how to execute on that quickly if you need to. And at minimum, at the start of 2025, start building those opportunities, because it's not gonna get better on Facebook and Google. It's only gonna get more expensive. It's only gonna get harder.
I shit you not, that's why I talked to the NIF guys, and I was like, I don't even know what this is, but I know I'm trying to figure out if things go wrong, and I get the call going we are not hitting target. We have to, because we want to go raise a bunch of money. We need to go do that. You need plays. You need things to kind of pull out, and it's not an evergreen approach, but you still need to know what to do if it goes red alert.
Yeah, we've been in this situation before. I think everyone kind of has that little tickle in the back of their mind. They know that okay, I could create this promotion that's way too good to be true, and it's just this giant lever, and God forbid I ever have to pull it, I can. I'm very fortunate because I work with a CEO who's very marketing minded, and so I never have to call him up and convince him, which is great. He's hyper aware of those things too. So I'm basically we're gonna pull the lever, and he's all right, sounds good. Whatever it is, everything $20, Yeezy style, whatever. And we've done that in the past before, where we just create just absurd promotions to hit those goals. It goes back to Taylor saying, we make guesses because you have to guess because you don't know, so everything's a guess by nature. Even if you model, it's a guess, and then you're somewhere within margin of error, and then you do whatever it takes to make that the reality. Outside of that, your number one lever to pull is, for us personally, is retention. If you're trying to hit goals, new customer acquisition is probably not the best way to come up with that money in a very, very short-term period of time. Now, you always have the option of going to Facebook and typing in a bigger number. That option's available to you all right now, but there's probably a reason you're not doing that today. And it's usually some degradation of efficiency, as that's a belief. But you have this massive side of revenue we call retention, and they're already loyal, devoted customers of your product. And if anyone should get the great deal that you need to get over a revenue threshold, I'll give it to them first. And so we'll send promotions. We have loyalty systems, which there's a lot of debate on those, but we can activate promotional offers based on loyalty tiers. So we're literally hitting, the top 1% and rewarding them first and then going down the line. But the point being, I think everyone has an idea of like what that in case of emergency pull lever is. And oftentimes the barrier might be convincing the right people in the room, especially if you're not, if you start at the org chart and you go down, if you're just like, God forbid, some poor lonely media buyer in a corner, that's going to be a difficult hill to climb. So, communicate ahead of time and then do all the things that all these other smart people said. You build stability when you have the chance, because you're going to need it one day.
Yeah, very fair. Well said.
TikTok, I'll throw that one out there. If Meta went away, TikTok has been our number one paid new customer acquisition source for more than a year now.
Both ads and creator?
Yeah, the combination of organic, creators, ads, and now TikTok Shop has been a massive, incremental add to the business. And if we're losing, we need to make target. To your point, of course, retention's a lever. And we can juice retention through, like I said, limited edition drops and releases, and really, put the foot on the gas pedal with those to drive people back and play with the scarcity element of this is limited. You only have the chance to get it now. You might not actually like it if you sit on it for a while, but you're going to buy it because you don't want the FOMO of not having it. And also 30% of our new customers on a monthly basis come from word of mouth. So do everything you can to build word of mouth that is resilient new customer acquisition, that you can eventually wean yourself off of the really expensive or potentially risky or unreliable, paid acquisition channels that might evaporate or just might not start, they might stop working for you the way they once did, as I think everybody's probably experienced to some level, where your reach tails off and you're wondering, how can I trust these channels to continue to introduce me to new eyeballs, and they're just not doing it the way they were. And part of that's, by design. You don't have an infinite market, and those platforms, despite their massive monthly active user base, they just have their limits. So having the playbook of okay, what's going to be next, and running those playbooks. You don't even need to wait for a cataclysmic event, rerunning those playbooks.
Well done. Round of applause for this panel real quick. Any questions from the outside crew? All individual different people. If not, we'll boot them off. What?
Question for Brumate. For TikTok in that channel, do you find that it's a good channel for your higher price point items, or is it mostly kind of lower up in the group?
Yeah, so we have two main lines of business. It's coolers, high AOV, $400 cooler, $300 cooler, and then drinkware, which is nice. This is $35, but we are in the drinkware space a pretty premium, twice as expensive as some of our competitors, similar price to Yeti. And so you wouldn't probably think TikTok or TikTok Shop is a great place to go sell super premium drinkware when it's just flooded with Chinese knockoffs and cheap shit. But with the right strategy, I've seen it absolutely work, and I think we have parity AOV on TikTok and TikTok Shop as we do on our Shopify store. But it's making sure, I was talking to somebody at dinner about this yesterday. It's there's a few factors that go into success on TikTok, and it's not just AOV. It's also your content engine that can, influence folks where they're not just an impulse buy. There's some more consideration, but content play. I've seen it done. I haven't yet cracked, I don't think we could sell a $400 cooler on TikTok Shop, but for being a premium drinkware provider, we're number 2 in the TikTok Shop in the drinkware category. Our other drinkware competitors in the kitchenware category are lower AOV, and we're crushing them. So it can be done.
Yeah, impressive, thanks.
This is for anybody that runs a community here. So I heard 2 people so far that said it. I wasn't sure about you guys, but so question for the people that have the communities. What would you guys say that your North Star metric is for success when it comes to running the community? And if the answer has anything to do with revenue, how do you attribute it?
Good.
I mean, yeah, revenue is an objective for sure, and we know that that community that we've built activates on anything that we do. Like, they're the first to respond. We post, like, if we have a promotion or a new product launch, we post in that VIP group like an hour or two, or sometimes like a day or two before anybody's going to get an email or an SMS of like, hey, new product or whatever. We know that it contributes serious revenue because people come back to the group and say, look what I bought, I'm so excited to receive it. But that was a byproduct of it. I don't think that was ever we never had a commercial intention in driving the community. It was really more of a place where we could identify like new lines of business, continue to stay on trend, like gather that feedback from the customer. It's really, really hard to control. Like, it starts to have a life of its own at some point, and so we've like doubled down on our investment in moderation, bringing moderation in-house, having employees that manage it to try and keep the train on the tracks. But our metrics for the group itself, we don't really have any other than our agents that manage its like perspective on customer satisfaction and engagement, and like sometimes things will there will start like a rant thread or something, and it's like, somebody has a problem and it's getting ahead of those things, being proactive with the customer experience, so that doesn't get out of hand. But I mean, huge revenue driver, but it's not something we have really hard KPIs on.
I mean, a lot of the same. Like, I'd say probably the North Star for us is just like volume of interaction. Like, we want to have this, I mean, that's the whole point, right? Is you have this little pool where your best customers are swimming in, right? And so if it gets cringe or whatever, like, keep in mind it's a social engagement algorithm when you're in a group. I can't sponsor posts or what have you. So if this becomes a place where like they don't want to be and their engagement metrics fall off, then like the meta algorithm's gonna devalue showing the group in their feed. And I think that like a lot of groups, the group mechanisms on Facebook, like a lot of them have, steep bell curves and then they just drop off. And so we're fighting that all the time. And fortunately, like, we see consistent total growth. We see consistent reactions growth, post growth, all of the metrics. So, it's making sure that it's our own space. So as long as the conversation's happening in a place where we can sort of, observe it and we can drop in what's important to us, new products and things like that, that's the KPI. It's just volume of engagement. And it's a community. Like, I'd say that again, it is a community. If it just becomes like a brand talking at each other, like, you may not be hot one day, and that's gonna accelerate the decline of your group, but a community is, for the better part, self-sustaining. So people in our groups are talking about stories about their day and their week and what's happening, and then our products are woven into that story, and that sort of builds as opposed to just a brand talking about how hot they are. Because again, we're gonna release some duds of a product, and we don't want that to be the death of the group because we made a mistake. Focus on the actual community side of it. Yes, there's a monetization aspect to it, but community first and foremost.
Question behind me.
Yeah, this is for Greg. When you got those messages from the customers, like, when is this coming back in stock, or we need this, did you try to push them to their actual products in stock, or did you ask them to wait, or this is coming soon, or, because we had something similar to happen to us this year?
It's a good question.
Yeah, so we don't do any kind of pre-sale. We would do preheat and activate up our email lists and our SMS list to let them know something's coming. And some of our customers get pretty trained to know what's coming and when based on seasonality. But we definitely, we ran a pretty small SKU list, less than 100 SKUs total. So it wasn't hard for us to forecast and keep our inventory readily in stock. When it came to times that we were out of stock, one of our best drivers was to not only obviously collect people's emails, collect the back order, notify when in stock stuff, but we'd go back and we'd hit up people who had bought in the past. And sometimes people will come to the page and it's out of stock and they don't leave their email. We would make sure to hit up people who had purchased those items that go out of stock for a certain period of time, make sure we go hit them directly with that back in stock messaging as well. Just basically to amplify that signal, because we were very rarely out of an evergreen product. Sometimes there were like material issues that we would run into and that would happen, but try to find the opportunities to really create a splash moment. Like if our gluten-free cakes went out of stock, maybe the people who bought other gluten-free products would like to know, like, hey, we kind of make it a splash moment that this item's back and available, and it generally created some nice incrementality for us, and we'd see some reactivation of customers who weren't even necessarily opted into the official back in stock messaging.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Chris, Greg, MacCoy, and Hans. Gentlemen, will you please join me the next? We have two left. Let's get this going. Good job. Brian, Tim, Matt, and Steve. These photos must have been 42 years ago. God, you guys look good. You guys haven't aged a bit.